Hey everyone, you are about to get a real treat because I'm in the middle of a integration mentor program, so our mentoring training program, and I'm here with Dominique, who's an INFJ. Hi, Dominique.
Hello.
And Clyde, who's an INFP. Hi, Clyde.
No.
And for those of you who know, the Sumiloff Academy is the safe space for INFJs and INFPs to come together and talk about their experience and relate to one another and do their learning and their personal inspiration work. And we were just in the middle of a training session, and we were talking about the challenge of wanting to change something big in the world, but really struggling to do the little things that will facilitate that change. And we were talking about, because some of you may know that I wrote a course called INFX Unveiled 10 years ago now. It was 2015. I can't believe it's 10 years ago. And that was a healing and or it is a healing and reparenting course for INFJs and INFPs who maybe didn't have the childhood that they wish they would have, and to get basically getting the tools that you needed to receive from the adult in your life that you didn't. So now you're becoming that adult yourself. And and in that course, I talk about a lot of the challenges that INFJs and INFPs have in showing up in the world as their authentic selves in a big way. And of course, which starts with the small things. And now, just in this training, we were talking about how there is almost like an unwillingness or incapacity to do the small things because the big vision feels quite intoxicating, or it can feel very like it feels like the only focus there is. But how do you get to the big change if you don't know, or if you don't want to or can't do the mundane little things? So, Clyde, you had a good point on that with we were talking about the inner family, the four people within, and your was it your 10-year-old that was
Yeah.
saying your 10-year-old introverted sensing or historian was talking about I don't want to do the mundane things. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, he just has this dreamer, idealist kind of view of the world. And like if we can't make the biggest impact, why bother with anything? And he'll just kind of pout because we can't do important things. We have to vacuum or clean the bathroom. And it's hard to convince him that, the vacuuming is important too. Like we don't want our house to be nasty.
Right. And do you ever get this? Because I get this a lot where if the house, it's almost like if the house is not in order, and for full disclosure, I'm an INFJ, so we're a little bit different with Clyde. So myself and Dominic, we have the same four people within, but once you really work with the first four people, you begin to work with the eight people. So then as people tuning into this video may know, that INFJs and INFPs don't actually share any four main functions in common. But once you move beyond that, you start to work with all of the functions. But for me, Clyde, it almost feels like I can't think if my house is not it doesn't have to be like really clean, but it has to be in order. Do you ever get that, Clyde, or do you, Dominic, do
It,
you maybe relate to that more? Is it an INFJ thing? Clyde, go
I
ahead.
I would say that it definitely it's not a conscious thing. It's not a conscious awareness that it dysregulates me, but like I'll be agitated until something gets done and I realize that that's the thing that's upsetting me. Like I'll just be just generally dysregulated and it's like, oh, I keep seeing the dishes undone, so that's what's upsetting me.
Yeah,
So, spend 3 minutes doing the dishes and move on with my day unagitated.
nice. And Dominic, do you get that?
I do. The problem is I am not a good housekeeper and I love it when everything's clean and organized. I have such a great, yeah, I feel I have such a great feeling and feel really positive and
Mm,
productive and everything, but it's a very big struggle for me. So I know if I could solve that little problem, well, it's a huge problem. things would be easier. So yes, indeed, I definitely get that. But you know what? All my drawers are neat inside. There's clutter
Oh,
everywhere. Like I have a problem with clutter, but inside the drawers and the cabinets and things, it's all really neat.
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, if you're tuning into this video and you can relate to what we're talking about, that, the sensory stuff isn't necessarily so easy for us intuitive, please drop a note in the comments because we'll be right there with you. Um, yeah, this conversation started from, what are the things that you can control? Because Dominic, we were talking about at the start of our call about the changes that we want to see in the world. And there's a part of you that is really disturbed and struggles with, or potentially all of you struggle with what's going on in the Middle East, and in particular in the Gaza area. And you've been very vocal on that change, wanting to see a shift, wanting to see accountability for the individuals and the civilians that are being affected by the war. And without going into the politics of it, because that's not really the point of this
Mm-hmm.
self-examination, um, you had an epiphany before the call today. Would you
Right.
like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. It just suddenly came to me that I tend to, well, maybe that's part of the inner drawers and all that. I like to collect data and, or try to store and hold on to all this data this floating around. And I realized that my poor inner 10-year-old is in charge of all that. And it's so overwhelming. And for literally a couple of years now, I didn't really I realized that it was overwhelming, but I didn't
Yeah.
pinpoint how that was. And so my mission is to give my poor little inner 10-year-old a break. And
Mm,
I guess partly, I don't necessarily need to collect all that data. It's sort of counterintuitive because it puts a burden on my inner
right.
10-year-old. It's too overwhelming. But then also to focus on, there is nothing that we can do about most of that stuff. So to focus on, there are things that we can do something about, and to focus on that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
smaller little pieces that I have control of and that I can reach in my life
Mm. And when
daily,
right, daily, exactly. And because
the
what you're
little
talking
stuff.
about, right, what you're talking about with the 10-year-old for the INFJ is what the introverted thinking, or what we call the scientist. And if you imagine, that scientist who's has the cognitive capacity of a 10-year-old child, trying to shift and sort through so much data that's coming at you, through all the channels, you you kind of already know what like you already have a picture in your mind of what is going on. You don't need to feed and overload that 10-year-old in order to get a better picture.
Right.
Um, there's a difference between, checking into news to be informed, and then being involved, to constantly having it on in order to feel like you're not missing any little detail. And that's what the INFJ
Mm-hmm.
10-year-old can really get into, is I can't miss any little detail. I have to know everything that's going on. But actually
Yeah.
then at what stage, because you can't, as you said, you can't control it, at what stage does that then turn into um, an overwhelm that you don't have to carry? You can still be um, informed
Mm-hmm.
and work toward a change,
Right.
but not be overwhelmed and be paralyzed and even depressed by the fact that the sense of powerlessness.
Yeah. It's that paralyzation. Like Clyde brought up a good point. It's like giving a homework assignment to a 10-year-old to solve, the world's problems.
Mm,
I mean, yeah.
that's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot. Do you have any kind of tips, both of you, for anybody tuning in that might, like if somebody came to you with exactly the same challenge that you're having, what would be your main tip for them?
I don't know. A lot of what's helping me currently, because I'm new on that very task, is grounding.
Yeah,
So I can come back down and breathe, and then focus on, what's the reality here? What can we do? Um, so, just grounding exercises, like for me, um, a lot of mindfulness and things like gardening, pulling
mm,
weeds,
hmm,
even doing dishes. Something that's just kind of takes you, I guess it takes you kind of out of your mind and into your body. And it's a little more, it helps to calm that overwhelm for me.
hmm. And that
Yeah.
sounds very much like the 3-year-old outward sensing, the investigator
Hmm.
part for the INFJ.
Yeah.
What about you, Clyde?
I think w when I experience this overwhelm around big stuff, it comes as like a dysregulation of my nervous system. Like I feel like jittery in my nervous system. And I have to go to my adult self. And there was a phrase that my therapist taught me years ago, and it's do the next right thing. Like,
Nice.
don't get caught up in indecision. If there is a right thing I can do, I do that rather than, oh my God, all these 10 things are going awful and there's nothing I can do about it. I just want to go cry and go to bed.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, where do I have power? Oh, I can check in with my journal. Oh, I can ground myself with a physical activity. Oh, I can be with my dog and, experience love in the world and those kind of things.
Beautiful. And that to me, again, sounds a little bit like looking after the 3-year-old inner child for the INFP, which of course is the executive, the outward thinker. Like, what do I think? How do I switch on my brain to do something in the outside world that actually will take the next step? Or so a lot of the time, the key to the overwhelm of the 10-year-old inner child is to attend to the 3-year-old, because a lot of the overwhelm for the 10-year-old comes from them trying to protect the 3-year-old inner child. So this has been a bit of a deep dive for, I think, those of those of us who's tuning into this and don't know anything about the 4 people within. But you can certainly find us all at the Sumiloff Academy of Human Integration at sumiloff.com. I'll put the link, or you'll find the link if you Google it. But thank you guys for really bringing a little bit of empowerment into this space that we can share with those who are out there in the world and braving the world. So I really appreciate you both. Thank you.